Yeah, we're good. Hi, everyone. You look great, Ethan. Okay, we'll just give it a couple of minutes for a couple of people to take their seats. Okay. All right, let's get started. Hi, everyone. Welcome to LIFT 2022. My name is Anne, Head of Strategic Growth here at Dutchie. We've got a great panel for you today. An awesome group of retailers joining me on stage. Let's kick things off with some introductions. We'll go down the line here. Start by introducing yourself, your role, and tell us a little bit about your retailer brand. Hey, Joanna, let's start with you.
Hi everyone, my name is Juana Marijuana. I got a PhD in THC. I'm a cannabis influencer, and I'm also a full-time manager at an independently owned dispensary named Babette's in Winnipeg, Manitoba.
Thanks, Joanna. Ife, want to go next?
I am Dr. Ife Abiola. I am the VP of Education at 420 Premium Market all over Alberta and now in Ontario. A medical doctor, transitioned into the cannabis industry after seeing the terrible things that are happening around pain. And great to be here. Glad to be working in retail, making people's lives better.
Thank
My
you.
name is Benjamin, no PhD. I'm the CEO and founder of the House of Cannabis. We have 4 stores across Ontario, and I'm happy to be here and share the stage with you guys.
All right, let's give a round of applause to our retailers, everyone. Looking forward to hearing all of your perspectives on the topic of retail, the right balance for awesome consumer experiences and operational excellence. The first topic is on current consumer demand and product preferences. So Tawana, let's start with you. What are some bestsellers currently at Babette's, located in Manitoba, as you mentioned before, and some of the most common preferences consumers look for?
So data from 2021 shows that the best-selling licensed producers in Manitoba are 7 Acres, Afria, and Aurora. Sorry, I'm like so nervous right now.
All good.
And over 2/3 of Manitobans are shopping for dried flower.
Yep.
But in my experience, I've noticed that the best-selling products in Manitoba are pre-rolls and vape cartridges.
Interesting.
And in terms of consumer preferences, I don't know if this is just a Manitoba thing, but every single person is always asking for the highest THC at the lowest price.
Right.
And that leads to price fluctuations in the local market. And that makes it difficult for independent stores like mine to keep up.
Right.
Yeah.
Dr. Ife, what are you seeing in Alberta?
So there are some similarities with Manitoba. Like we are seeing that whole thing of give the highest THC for the lowest price. I'm not going to hear anything else. We do get that a lot in Alberta. However, there's a little bit of a difference in terms of the product categories. Like we're finding that we have way more pre-rolls being sold, and then edibles, and then the SKUs of flowers in like 8s or ounces. So we haven't quite caught up with you in terms of like the vape cartridges or anything. However, we need to take into account things like seasonality. Some of our locations at 420 are in more vacation locations such as Canmore or Sylvan Lake, and we find that things change completely when we have outsiders coming in. So there's a lot of different things to take into account, including what's the demographic of the cities that we're in, because we're in multiple cities. But generally speaking, we're seeing the pre-rolls dominate, then the edibles, and then flower SKUs. So a little bit different than Manitoba.
Thank you, Dr. Ife. Ben, how does this compare to what you're seeing in Ontario? And any theories about the similarities and differences between Manitoba and Alberta, what you're seeing in Ontario right now?
Yeah, we're going to make it 3 for 3. I think for us, it's highest THC and lowest price. So for all our stores, when we categorize it in terms of revenue, the number 1 category for us is flower, then pre-rolls, vapes, edibles, and then beverages. So a little bit different from you guys, but I think flower still dominates in the Ontario market for us. But I think it varies from area to area as well.
Definitely. Sounds good. All right, moving on to the next topic. We will dig into customer experience, what keeps customers coming back, and what converts them from the legacy market. So Dr. Ife, let's start with you this time. Now, one thing that is very apparent with 420's brand, I follow you on LinkedIn, and just so really leading with education as well. Are you able to share with us more about that brand strategy, how it potentially ties into your customer loyalty strategy so they keep coming back to your store versus the 700 plus currently in Alberta right now? And then do you see that conversion from legacy to legal based on that strategy?
That's a fantastic question. So 420 Premium Market actually started off as 420 Clinic, and it was the first resource center in Alberta. So we were dealing with our medical patients. I was the medical director at that time when I returned from Chicago from practicing, and I was done with that. So we weren't actually able to sell product. We were only able to educate people. They would have to buy it from the government. And that actually kind of stuck with us and kind of amalgamated itself into our ethos here of we are educators. That never left. We always made the point of making sure that everyone leaves our store learning something and also providing continuing education for our staff so that no one gets complacent, so that they're like, oh, I've learned everything about cannabis. I just need to sell now. No, we want everyone learning progressively about different SKUs, about different strategies, about the customers that are there, different changes in the market as well. So here's what we've seen in terms of education and the customer. People don't want to be across a counter from someone and leave going, I know so much more than that person. It's kind of a discouraging feeling. A quote I love is, I can learn something from everyone, therefore everyone is my teacher. So we've made it a point that we can learn from our customers, we can learn from each other, and we've actually democratized this to kind of like a active wiki app for our staff where they can just share information. And if people can leave learning a little bit more about certain SKUs and being open to something else, they tend to be a little bit happier ultimately. So,
yeah, that's great. It seems like you've not only fostered a community, but your shops are not just stores that you go in, buy cannabis and leave. They are resource centers. They are educational centers that people can tap into. So thank you for that. Ben, House of Cannabis is no stranger to building unique brand experiences and community. Everything from a robot bud tender. If you haven't seen this, like definitely look that up on LinkedIn and Google House of Cannabis. And also recognizing Asian Heritage Month and lots of community events. So how do you build brand loyalty so people keep coming back to the House of Cannabis stores versus all the stores here in the GTA?
Yeah, there's a lot of stores in GTA.
Yeah, Queen Street.
Yeah, we tried everything from, figuring out how to best design our stores, bring in a robot bud tender, which actually fell last week it actually fell. Tripped over an event, now it's broken.
Down.
But I think for us, it's just, again, echoing your voice, having a really good team and educating your customer base, because we have to break up the notion of what's the highest THC you have. It's not all about THC percentage, right? But how do you finish your cannabis? What's the right product for yourself? And that's where we have to hire the right team members to have that engagement, have that relationship with your customer base. And that's what's going to keep them coming back, is that relationship between your team and your customer. And just having the right tech stack also to market to that customer base is also pretty key.
Thank you, Ben. Now, Tawana, I'll go to you. So you have created an incredibly unique brand and space at Babette. I'm going to read a quote directly from the Babette's website. We created a cozy and vintage space. Think of us as your cool auntie's living room. How are you using your brand experience to build brand loyalty and help possibly convert people from the legacy market over to the legal market?
So first and foremost, I think the two most important factors I found to keep customers coming back is having affordable and competitive prices, as well as being accessible. So we selected a prime location at the edge of a residential community. And we also accept e-transfers as payment because a lot of people don't have credit cards to order online. And in addition to that, we hire knowledgeable bud tenders who are both passionate and invested in keeping up with all the new information, because there's tons of information with cannabis, like the learning is never ending. And then in terms of branding, we cater to multiple demographics. So for example, our staff is age diverse and we make sure to market our space to appeal to intergenerational stoners while focusing our social media efforts on trends to reach Gen Z and millennial audiences. And then in terms of converting customers to the legal market, some things that are important to the customer is just the reliability and the regulated testing of cannabinoids and terpenes. The legal market also provides accurate, reliable information that is readily available either through talking with the budtenders or just simply reading the labeling on the packaging. But with that said, I think it's fair to say that a lot of people are still shopping on the illicit market for valid reasons, such as like the THC limit on edibles, the possession limit, and the advertising limitations. Right. I think there needs to be more focus in supporting craft and micro producers, because ultimately I think that is what is going to convert the consumer to the legal market.
Thank you. Thanks for those points. And that actually leads us into the next section of our panel, which is marketing best practices. And Tawana, I'll actually start with you again. What are some changes or updates you would like to see in terms of marketing legislation? We're coming up past the 3-year mark of federal legalization. Health Canada has very strict rules when it comes to marketing and promotions. And what are some changes you'd like to see and why?
Well, if I'm being completely honest with you, I don't have much hope for the legislation these days. But what I would like to see is the cannabis industry being able to advertise the way the alcohol industry can. Like, how cool would it be to see a cannabis commercial after the Leafs win a Stanley Cup? It's a pipe dream either way.
That would be cool. Yeah. Dr. Ethan, what are your thoughts?
I have to echo what you said. Yeah, having it be the same as liquor would be fantastic. I know that every province has its different regulatory boards, so there's different things we mean when we say the same as liquor. We would love that in Alberta. That being said, our regulatory commission in Alberta has removed education, and that's one of the major things that we kind of ran on, and now they're kind of putting a lot of pressure on us. So, everyone can say, here's how to use alcohol responsibly, but we have something so magical with cannabis, and we can't tell them anymore. We could up until last week. Here's how to use cannabis responsibly. And we feel eventually it's going to catch up with them. And they're going to realize that we need that not only for marketing, awareness, realizing that it's not just going to kill everybody like opioids do or alcohol can. But I think eventually that would be the ideal thing, is to have it be the same as liquor in terms of marketing, in terms of promotion, and even in terms of discussion.
Yeah, and something unique to say that it's like, yes, we want, in terms of marketing, have parallels with liquor, but the main difference, I think anyways, for cannabis is like everyone is so different, the way they consume it, the way it affects them. So the education component is so important. And if someone like the AGLC is looking to keep cannabis out from minors or to use cannabis responsibly, like education is key.
Oh yeah, if I could just add to that, they found in Alberta at least that young people are not using cannabis as much as they did prior to legalization, and they're attributing it to education. Because now that that stigma is gone, they go, oh, my dad uses that, I don't care. This is no longer an act of rebellion anymore. By taking away that education, all they're doing is making it this like sexy thing now that like, ooh, I don't know about this. Let's do it. Let's see what happens. And it's just gonna take away all those years of hard work that we did to make sure this is done safely. It's gonna take those years, it's gonna throw it away. So I would love to see that change very soon.
Or even putting a hard age gate.
You're all familiar with all the stuff they did to us in Alberta, yeah. So.
Yeah, those of you not familiar with the hard age gate, in Alberta now, in order for anyone to be able to view any legal cannabis website menu, you need to be hard age gated, which means you need to either be there in person to validate your ID that you're over the age of 18, or you need to do a virtual conference call to validate that your driver's license and your credit card that you're using is in fact yours.
It's the dark ages. So even with, I had a YouTube channel that was all education and stuff. We made it fun and whatever. And they said you need to age gate this for adults. We did that, and then the next day they were like, no, we're just gonna get rid of it. So they nuked it. So yeah.
So sorry.
Same as alcohol would be fantastic. I agree with you.
Yeah. All right, well, moving on to Ben. What changes would you like to see in marketing legislation?
Yeah, they need to relax the rules a little bit. I think for us, we're just waiting for our neighbors down south to legalize it. I mean, everything's tied to the U.S. Pretty much hand in hand. Instagram, Facebook, Google Ads, everything. These are big American companies, right? And you don't want the feds to come down and stop your services. So I get why marketing in those platforms are difficult. But hopefully, with U.S. legalization, that allows us to run more creative stuff, such as Google Ads, be more prominent on Instagram, on Facebook. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I got my Instagram taken down like 5 times already. So
Same. And my TikTok.
and you can't get it back.
No.
Like it's gone forever, right? So I think we're hoping their neighbors down south will legalize soon, so we have all that platform to utilize. Just like alcohol, I mean, like hopefully we can have commercial one day after the Leafs game this year. All right, Leafs are going to win this year. They're from like out of Ontario, so
So it's either Ontario or out of Ontario?
Yeah. Leafs or
Ben, that's
non-Leafs.
so center of the universe of you to say.
Toronto is the mecca of hockey, right?
Vancouver, BC girl right here.
But I think with us, I mean, we're hoping you see it down in the States, like all the creative packaging. That's another thing that really irritates me is the packaging. You go down to the States, it's all colorful, it's all transparent. You can actually see the bud inside the jars. Over here, I'm shaking the container, saying like, is this a good nug or is this like all popcorn? So hopefully that can change relatively soon.
Thank you, Ben. We are going to have some more questions. I've got a few more questions here. We are going to take a couple questions from the audience. So if you do have questions for any of our retail panelists, feel free. I think there's a mic up there. Feel free to stand up there and I'll call on you to ask your question. All right. In the meantime, the next topic, emerging point of sale and inventory systems and data goals. So the question is, how does data and efficient inventory systems play into your operations and customer experience? And Ben, why don't you start us off this time?
Yeah, I think understanding your demographic is going to be very key, and utilizing their past purchases to understand what kind of marketing to utilize is going to be very, very strong strategy. For example, I have a customer that comes into one of our stores regularly and buys CBD products, right? CBD gummies. Now, you wouldn't send her an email marketing strategy where it's pushing high THC flowers. The likelihood of her unsubscribing to her email is much, much higher. So having a good tech stack to understand your demographics, what their purchase history is, and creating unique marketing strategies for each category is going to be the winning strategy at the end of the day.
It's all about your customers.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah. Dr. Ife.
I have to echo the same thing. What I mentioned earlier about even just like cities themselves having different demographic areas. You can't just kind of make an avatar for who your customer is and then just attack that. You will make everybody equally unhappy. I think being able to kind of cater yourself to different folks is incredibly important. To get a little bit more broad with why it's such an important thing as well, people need to know, especially if you're having these long educational talks with someone, if it's actually the right product they want, that you have it in, and when it's going to be available, and tracking and things like that are incredibly important, because it's those little inconveniences that can really make everything go south when you're dealing with the customer. So understanding who the customer is, making their experience proper in the store are both tied to that. I think it's incredibly important.
Thank you. Juana, any thoughts on this topic?
So unfortunately, I don't have much experience speaking on POS for consumers yet, just because I've only been a manager for 4 months, and I've gone from working at a Tokyo Smoke where we used Shopify, and it was very like tablets, and it was very like efficient. And now we're using like this local POS system, and it isn't as efficient. So I definitely prefer the flexibility offered by mobile POS technologies rather than being responsible for the entire transaction from greeting to purchase.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point. So having a mobile solution or having it easier for your staff member to easily access some of these data points, which leads me into education for your staff member. So what are some ways that you guys are doing to help your staff members consistently stay on top of the latest and greatest, and how do you educate them so they have the data that they need to deliver that experience? And like you said, Dr. Ife, not to have your customers leave being like, oh, I knew more than the staff member. So I don't know who wants to answer that. Dr. Ethan, maybe take it away.
What we were able to utilize right off the bat was a learning management system. So this is an integrated system where you have to enroll people in certain courses depending on their experience. Not everyone that gets into the cannabis industry knows about cannabis. That's the case because we're expanding so much. So you need to be able to bring somebody who knows nothing up to speed, and you need to keep those people who have been there for years, legacy market people, happy. So this way you're using things like integrated video systems where there could be even live streams on new SKUs. However, there is a more formal classroom type of thing where you would watch videos for different things you need to know, whether it's the building blocks of cannabis, what makes it what it is, terminology, flavonoids, cannabinoids, the rare ones as well, and then getting very granular the longer that they're in it. So we have that system there. It's pretty much just like taking a continuous online course as long as you're one of our employees. And it's been incredible. Also using apps where everyone is able to share information constantly. Everyone has something to contribute, and even small trends that they're seeing in the stores really matter. So as long as everyone's able to share and everyone's able to get information from the top down quickly and efficiently, that seems to be the best one.
And I bet that probably helps with employee retention too.
It does. We have very low
like
turnover.
career growth.
Yep.
Growing from within.
And we also, I teach a post-secondary course as well. That's supposed to be just like for everyone, even if you're not a 420 employee. So we just have to stick with our values of we are learners and educators at the same time.
Awesome, thank you. Ben, any thoughts? How do you keep your staff members up to speed on education and what's out there and the latest and greatest that's out there?
Yeah, I mean, Ontario, I think last week dropped 100 new items onto our portal. So that's a lot of items to learn in a real quick time, right? For us, it's just trying to work with our LP licensed producer partners to make sure we have scheduled PK sessions, product knowledge sessions, as well as have good sales sheet, like a good one pager with key information, who it targets, what are some key selling features is absolutely critical. And we have that all in a binder at our front desk for our sales agency, our buttoners to take a look at. So just having that readily available is super critical.
Awesome. Did you want to comment on anything? Or?
Yeah, same thing as what Ben said in regards to like connecting with the brand reps from the LPs, just building relationships with them because they have all the information about the products they're selling. And so my staff at the Vets is really small. It's just like 5 of us. And so we created like a Google Doc where we leave strain reviews on products that we've tried. We also read Reddit threads about products and stuff like that. And yeah, that's about it.
Yeah, it's all about, I see a theme of education, knowledge sharing, and connecting. Because especially in this industry, you can't know it all yourself. You can't do it all yourself. And this industry is all about helping each other out, right? Well, we are almost out of time. I've got one final question for all of you. So those in the audience who are either in the retail industry or thinking about getting into the cannabis retail industry, do you have any final retailer words of wisdom? Tawana, you want to kick us off?
I think the best advice is to have a LinkedIn. LinkedIn has helped me gain so many opportunities because it's cannabis friendly. And I find using cannabis-friendly apps are the best way to connect with other people in the industry and find opportunities.
Great, thank you. Dr. Ife?
I would say be principled. Like if there's a reason why you're in it, because retail is kind of weird sometimes, stick with that principle, but also be flexible in the way that you're going to action that. The landscape changes a lot. Sometimes it's just blue ocean, everything's there, and sometimes it's pandemonium. There's too many competitors. So remember what brought you into this whole thing, whatever that reason is, but be flexible because your landscape will change eventually.
For me, it's just get out there. I mean, go out there, understand your demographic, understand your market. You want to make sure you know what you're building your store around, right? And also go out there and meet people, because a bunch of us here, we just met today and we're like good buddies now. We're sharing ideas, seeing what's happening in your province versus my province. And I'm sure everybody in this industry is very helpful as long as you're not out there by yourself. So just make friends and don't screw anyone over.
And I think inherently, like anyone in the cannabis industry, there's definitely a hustle, but there's definitely a mission to be part of something bigger than yourself. And that's I think is the thing that it keeps me up at night, but it also gets me up in the morning too. So, all right, okay. On that note, I want to thank our retail panelists. Thank you, Tawana, Ife, Ben. Let's give a big round of applause for our retail panelists. My name is Anne. Enjoy the rest of your show. Be sure to check out the Hotel Dutchie booth in the back there. Pick up some slippers and enjoy the rest of your show, guys. Thank you.
Thank you again to Anne.